Yesterday morning, which was, of course, the morning after Zohran Mamdani's win in New York, you did tweet a photo or an image of the Statue of Liberty in a burqa, and you added the caption or comment, "This hits hard." What did you mean by that?
Well, I'm an American woman, and I have all the freedoms in the world to never have to bow to a religion that would force me to cover my body up and only see my eyes and my fingertips. And that is a major threat for all American women. And I think that's something that hits hard for all women.
But what's a major threat to American women? Was it in reference to Mamdani's win?
Pardon, I'm sorry.
What were you tweeting it in reference to? When you say it's a threat to American women,
that's a Muslim takeover or possibly Sharia law. That is a great threat to every single American woman. And I think that's something all women should never want or allow to happen in America. And it's important to talk about those things.
But it's up to the voters of New York City to elect whoever they wish to elect, whether that person is Muslim or Christian or Jewish or anything else. So what is the evidence?
Well, of course, voters have the right to elect that. And I'll maintain my right to say that I think Sharia law and women being forced to wear burqas is the greatest threat to our freedoms as American women.
Right, but are you opposed to Muslims holding elected office?
I am 100% opposed to Sharia law in America. 100% unapologetically opposed to Sharia law in America.
Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, we so appreciate you joining with us.
I've sometimes mentioned here in Rising that I grew up in the north of Ireland at a time when an armed conflict was taking place there. That conflict has many huge differences to what is now going on in Gaza. But I'm often reminded of a phrase we sometimes used back home, a hierarchy of victims. That refers to the unfortunate tendency for media and politicians, and also, if we're honest, all of us, to parcel out our compassion unevenly, to twist our recognition of suffering to fit our preferred political narrative, to suggest that some deaths are more or less deserving of our outrage. Pointing this out is never about downplaying the terrible grief of those who tend to get placed at the apex of that hierarchy of victimhood. But it is to recognise the equally precious humanity of those who get placed below it. So that as we remember the victims of anti-Semitic attacks like Iran and Syria, we also remember 6-year-old Wadeh al-Fayyoumi, the Palestinian-American boy stabbed to death in a hate crime in suburban Chicago. It's so that when we scrutinise political rhetoric, we hold to account those who target and dehumanize anyone, Jewish or Muslim, Israeli or Palestinian.
The media obsesses about this. I understand.
Hold on a second,
why it does.
The media obsesses about the fact that people tried by force to overturn an election, and more than 100 law enforcement agents were injured, and people were breaking into the United States Capitol.
All bad.
All bad by any stretch of the imagination. Something to concentrate on.
Yes, well. There's lots of things to concentrate to keep the American people safe, Niall. Many things. It's a complicated, mean, and nasty world out there. We should make no mistake about that. I don't for a second apologize for the rioters who broke into the Capitol. I've said this, I don't know, how many times? Dozens and dozens of times since then. Bad. Punish them. They should be punished for the crimes that they committed. In the same way that those folks who committed crimes in Minneapolis and Seattle and took over a small part of the town, they should be punished too. I'm a conservative. I believe in law and order. You should comply with all the laws, and when you don't, you should be punished for that. The law has a solution for those who are bad actors. And January 6th, while it was a bad day for America, I've heard it compared to Pearl Harbor. This is what the media does. This is nonsense to compare it to the men who'd lost their lives that day at Pearl Harbor and the fact that we engaged in a world war. January 6th ends with a duly confirmed president of the United States and a transition. That's a noble ending to that day.
It's a noble ending after an absolute catastrophe for America earlier on that day.
And so my book focuses on the things and outcomes that we did.
The things and outcomes that you did included having the sitting president speak at a rally earlier that day.
Yeah, sure. He spoke at the rally, absolutely.
And incited rioters.
You use your adjective, fair enough. My book is about the things that I worked on for 4 years. I'd never described January 6th as America's proudest day. I regret that that happened. But to say that, gosh, it's a glaring omission is exactly the same storyline of the Russia hoax. It is a misfocus of a set of priorities, a deep misunderstanding of the things that deliver good outcomes for the American people.
It's a 400-page book, and there's one sentence about January 6th.
Yep, I'd do it exactly the same way again.
Suggestion there is that they should be absorbed into other countries and cease to be Palestinian. And most Irish people don't think they should cease to be Palestinian.
How much of this, and I think it's a fair question, especially as it relates to Ireland, that there was a unique link between the Palestinian cause and the Irish Republican Army through the Troubles in Ireland?
Well, I mean, if we want to talk about the parallels in Ireland, the reason that there
I'm just saying if there's a reason for the support.
Yes, and it is empathy about military occupation and subjugation by a larger neighbouring power, as Israel has been, as you're well aware, in illegal occupation of the West Bank for more than 5 decades.
We'll go whether legal or illegal at a different time.
It's illegal.
We'll go at a different time than that. But this would be my question. The reason there was peace in Ireland was because you had two people who, by and large, wanted to live in peace, right? The Northern Ireland wanted to live in peace with Ireland. Ireland wanted to live in peace with Northern Ireland. There was a way to negotiate a settlement. How does Israel, by whatever government exists there, and I think we can all agree there have been a number of governments which have offered very gracious peace proposals to the Palestinians, how do they make peace with a people who 82% support a terrorist organization that says we will fight to destroy Israel?
Because the parallel there with the Irish situation is that what you do to create the conditions for peace is provide people who have a legitimate grievance with alternative means to achieve or to come close to achieving their goals by peaceful means. That is what siphoned off support for the armed struggle of the IRA in the north of Ireland, and it is what is ultimately could siphon support away from the Al-Qassam brigades in Gaza.
I promise you the last word. It's good to see you, my friend. To be continued.
One survey found that in the year after the October the 7th attacks, all of the major Sunday shows here put together did a grand total of one interview with a Palestinian or a Palestinian American. How do you think that kind of imbalance affects American perceptions of the conflict?
I think it's unfortunate because in this case, you are not allowing us the right of being accepted as equal people. And the Palestinian point of view is totally not allowed to reach the American public by the media. But on the other hand, I tell you that the American people have the right to know. And fortunately, many of them know not through mainstream media, but know through social media these days. And one of the most impressive indicators is the shift in the American public opinion towards more understanding of the Palestinian rights and the more understanding of the struggle of the Palestinian people for freedom.
President Trump is going to win on Tuesday.
He described Democrats as vermin, did he not?
Again, did you hear what I just said? Democrats have been calling President Trump a threat
did you hear the
to
question?
democracy.
Did he describe
for
Democrats as vermin, Karoline?
For 8 years. And the second gentleman who tried to kill President Trump and attempted to take his life echoed some of that same rhetoric on his social media.
Did the
he
former
said on
president
his social
describe
media that
Democrats
Donald
as
Trump
vermin?
is a threat to democracy. That is the exact same rhetoric that is used from the Democrat Party against him for the past 8 years, and it has inspired 2 assassination attempts on President Trump's life.
And do you think it's acceptable to call members of the other party vermin?
I don't think it's acceptable to call President Trump Hitler. I don't think it's
But
acceptable,
it's acceptable for him to call them
democracy.
vermin, or no?
He hasn't said that about Democrats. He said that about the illegal immigrant criminals who are invading our country. And yes, I think that illegal immigrants who rape and murder innocent women, they are vermin. They are disgusting monsters and they should be deported.
He said it about, I believe, what he terms radical left Marxists, but in any event. I just wanted to follow up with a question that came from the front row about the conditions on military aid. And you said that the questioner wanted you to hang some conditions over their necks, that the Israelis. And your tone suggested you wouldn't do that. Why not?
I've already answered this question a whole bunch of times. We believe that the approach that we're taking is working in terms of making it clear to the Israelis what our expectations are. I'm not going to get ahead of decisions one way or another that we might take in the future. What I'm saying is right now we are continuing to support Israel because they continue to need military assistance, because they continue to face a viable threat.
Well, on the point of conditions, the President on February 8th issued a memo, and it said, and you already know this, but just for context, it said that it was the policy of this administration to prevent arms transfers that risk facilitating or otherwise contributing to violations of human rights or international humanitarian law. Is firing a missile at people delivering food and killing them not a violation of international humanitarian law?
Well, the Israelis have already admitted that this was a mistake that they made. They're doing an investigation. They'll get to the bottom of this. Let's not get ahead of that. Your question presumes, at this very early hour, that it was a deliberate strike, that they knew exactly what they were hitting, that they were hitting aid workers and did it on purpose, and there's no evidence of that. I would also remind you, sir, that we continue to look at incidents as they occur. The State Department has a process in place. And to date, as you and I are speaking, they have not found any incidents where the Israelis have violated international humanitarian law. Unless you think we don't take it seriously, I can assure you that we do. We look at this in real time.
They have never violated international humanitarian law ever in the past 5 to 6 months.
I'm telling you, the State Department has looked at incidents in the past and has yet to determine that any of those incidents violate international humanitarian law.
Denmark is a U.S. ally and NATO member. How do you think this will impact our relationship with the Danes?
I'm sure the Danes won't be terribly happy about it. Now, obviously, the United States is exponentially the greater power in that relationship, but it will not please Denmark. But I do think, again, Hannah, the bigger point to get to here is it is for the people of Greenland to decide what the future of Greenland is, not for the government of Denmark, even though it's part of that kingdom, nor for the people in the White House in Washington. It is for the people of Greenland, otherwise you're talking about what is effectively colonization by another name.